Hey, this is Sundance DiGiovanni, CEO of MLG, and you're listening to VVV's The Losers Bracket.
After nearly a year's worth of shows, a handful of specials, I'd like to welcome you to the 50th round of VVV Gaming's The Losers Bracket. And wow, where do we even begin this week?
Well, before we begin, you want to tell me a little bit about that change in the intro music there?
Sure.
Where did you get that from?
Well, big shout out to Nick Avila, the bass player for the band you just heard. That band goes by the name of Power Glove. If you haven't heard them before, please go check them out. They do a lot of really cool renditions, metal renditions of video game music, Saturday morning cartoon show themes, things of that nature. Really cool. Their latest album is called Saturday Morning Apocalypse. Go check it out. Awesome band.
Why don't we introduce our guests? Let's get right to who we have with us. We're going to talk about all kinds of titles. We've got VVV Perilous here. We're going to take a stroll through memory lane. Forsaken, VVV Forsaken, Chris is here. We've got Relent. For those of you who don't know, that's Anthony, VVV Relent, our COD Black Ops manager. Adam is here, IceVayne, to talk about Halo Reach. Tristan is back once again to talk about StarCraft 2. And our very own Kraft dinner, who is also Anthony, but we might call this the Italian Stallion instead, is also here to join us all the way from Vancouver, British Columbia. So, to start out the show, I want to start with some good news. Had a great conversation with SteelSeries today. They approved our product requests that we've got going out. A lot of the new Gunner glasses are going to be going out. Kraft Dinner's getting them because he's good looking, and I think people find him attractive and think he'll look good in a pair of Gunners. Jolly's getting a big package. For StarCraft 2, they've approved thus far Murder and Tristan to get keyboard, headset, Gunner optics, and a mouse. So that's the first good news. Let's see. What else this 50th episode? The Chicago Tribune has officially upgraded our status to now that we can say that VV Gaming is officially a weekly contributor to the Chicago Tribune. So we're excited about that. But let's get right down to the games themselves as we start this 50th episode. Why don't we start out where all things began, on the console side, and let's start out with our latest edition. We're going to start with you, Anthony, VVV Relent.
Okay, thanks for having me.
All right, well, a lot of our podcast listeners have not met you before. I know inside VV Gaming's Call of Duty Black Ops community, everyone knows who you are, but tell everyone a little bit about you, how old you are, and how you arrived at being our Black Ops manager.
Well, my name is Anthony Geckerman. I'm 18 years old. I live in Maryland. My background is based off of Gears of War and Call of Duty. I've been playing them since Call of Duty 2 and Gears of War 1. I first met VVV at DC, MLG DC recently. Met them. There were a lot of cool people. I signed up, and when Black Ops came out, I just continually played with everybody. And I had a lot of knowledge of the game, so they asked me to be the Black Ops manager.
And we are really glad to have you. So tell me a little bit about where we are right now. I know the 25K ladder is going on. And if I'm right, the number one team motivation, they've applied to VV Gaming, correct?
That is correct. This roster consists of, at the moment, is Temptation, Dougie Fresh, Clover, and P90.
And it's my understanding that they have pretty much beaten almost all the top teams, at least at this point, what people are suspecting are the top teams, or those that have had LAN experience, say, from Modern Warfare 2. Is that right?
That is correct. They've beaten Optic, they've beaten Vicious Intent, IGC. They played against Envious Blue, but they did not beat them. That was the only team right now that they have not beaten on the ladder.
Gotcha. So maybe we will have an Envious Blue and Motivation showdown. And this is on the PlayStation 3, correct?
Yes, on the 25K ladder.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about our very own SBN, they had a rough road. They basically kind of split as a team, and now it is Kata, who is a team captain, and Reckless, and they are in the process of picking up 2 more people. Is that correct?
That is correct, and they've also picked me up as their coach.
This will be your first time coaching Black Ops, right?
Yeah, this is my first time coaching Call of Duty.
That's awesome. All right, so if you were going to make a decision today, would you pick up Motivation?
Just from looking at the resume, they look like a great team. I would say yes.
And once you have a sit down to have a formal meeting with them, we'll know more, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Thanks for that update. All right, moving to the next MLG title that we have on the circuit for the console side, Halo Reach. And this brings me to you, Adam IceVayne. How are you today?
Doing quite good. How about yourself?
I'm well. Why don't we start out with the quick update? How's Active Rush doing? Tell people about some of the changes and where you guys are right now.
From last tournament of MLG Dallas, we let go of Straight Sick, as most people have probably found out through Twitter or Facebook or through the VVV website. Right now, we're still in the process of trying to find that perfect fourth that fits, our mold of our idea on how we want to try to improve and go to the next step at the MLG events. And right now, it's just been a bunch of searching for different people to play with as possible fourths, and then playing into GB 10K ladder.
What would you say are going to be your team's greatest challenges? Because Reach, the first event, all the pros are going to be back. There's a lot of speculation who's going to do well, who's going to do not so well. What range, where are you looking for your fourth?
Right now, the fourth, it can be anyone, honestly, just whoever has the same ideas and same motivation as all of us, basically. The biggest mountain we're going to have to climb is probably going through amateur bracket. If we can do that flawless with no mistakes, then the first event should be really good for us. Last team I ever had that had to go through AM that was destined to go pro bracket went through AM without dropping a series, and we went on to placing 9th that event.
To go back a little bit, if we can ask this question, because I think some people don't know all the details, and I get asked it, and I don't really like to talk about our player decisions, but at the end of the day, if you were to describe 1 or 2 words, what do you think was the reason that Straight Sick was no longer going to be a good fit for the team?
Just wasn't fitting our ideal image, probably fitting it in one word, wasn't very selfless. He always just thought about himself when it comes into games, and if he just had more kills than any of us and we lost the game like we did and won their series at the tournaments, he just thinks he did nothing wrong in the game and that it was just our fault. It's not his fault, and we suck. And that's just not something good to see on a teammate's face when you're right next to him and can just see that he thinks he's doing great, but everybody else isn't doing anything at all to help him.
Yeah, everybody, if you hear this, that makes you sort of not teamable. In every moment that you're disappointed at your team, remember you have an option to turn to them and go, come on, guys, we got this. What can I do to help? Instead of acting like you've done your job and it's everyone else's fault. It's pretty short-sighted when you behave that way, and in the long term, it's really hard for a team to develop real chemistry if that's what you do. So it seems that there is a good reason to let him go, unfortunately, and also a good way to let people know that want to come onto the team, these are experienced LAN players here. Be sure that if you do come on, you're humble and you understand that IceVayne and his team realize they have a long road ahead of them and definitely need somebody who's going to be able to identify problems, work together with the team to create solutions. Adam, I know it's not official yet, but there's a lot of talk back and forth about V3 settings, version 3 settings for Reach. I know a lot of people are talking about Bungie fixing the sprint problem. Can you talk a little bit about what that means for those that aren't following Reach that closely?
With discussions on V3, it's been a lot of basically looking at the pros and cons of who likes sprint and who doesn't like sprint as a starting loadout. A lot of talks have come with if sprint is kept, which some players believe that it should, that the game settings need to adjust to sprints. As, for example, in Capture the Flag, it needs to go back to how Halo 3 had it, which is a 3 to 5 second flag return time instead of it just being instant as soon as you touch it. There's been so many people, obviously, with playing game battles for the 10K ladder. They've been playing 2 to 3 months of sprint, and a lot of people don't know what this game is like with no sprints. And it'll definitely go down to the wire for V3 on how they want MLG wants to look at the game. If they want to look at it from a spectator viewpoint and want to make the game more entertaining, because I know a lot of people said the game was boring and lacked excitement, magnificent plays, then sprint would probably be the way to go. If they wanted to keep it like Halo games, like Halo 1, Halo 2, and Halo 3, how they were in that general format, then sprint will probably be gone in V3.
What do you personally want to see happen and why?
Personally, I would say no sprint at all. I would like to see armor abilities on the map, but none of the armor abilities like Sundance has been tweeting, like with Armor Lock or Hologram. I mean, I wouldn't mind testing out camo or even having sprint and evade on the map. I honestly put evade in be a armor ability to be picked up in V3 when I get back my feedback. I'm hoping that V1 and V2 settings are basically combined into making a nice V3 settings.
Adam, I want to thank you so much for sharing that. I wish you and Active Rush the best of luck in finding a fourth. I mean, everyone's going to be paying attention to see what the V3 settings are. I know right now the Halo community is in many ways divided over what to do with sprint. I know myself, I agree with you. I'm hoping that sprint does not end up in a sort of starting build default, so to speak, but I do really hope sprint ends up on the map. I don't think it should not be in the game at all. I think it should be there because it can have a significant effect, and it does act as an enhancement. But I know, Ryan, VV Perilous, you're going to be playing Halo Reach from my understanding. I've seen you playing it, and you want to have a team and go to events, and you always do. So, I mean, you're going to be out there. What are your thoughts on the whole sprint, no sprint? If I remember correctly, you are not a fan of sprint at all, right?
No, I'm definitely not a fan of sprint. But you did bring up a good point about putting it on the map. I just don't think it's a starting quality of armor ability, and I don't think any armor ability should be starting equipment. Another thing about starting equipment I don't like is the choice between needle rifle or DMR. One of my pet peeves has always been getting shot by needle rifle, and it's just the most annoying thing ever. I don't mind if people pick it up and use it, but I don't like them starting out with it. I think everyone should start out with the same stuff and then pick up, various placements throughout the map, whatever you need to use.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've played the game enough to make that decision, but I do know, that is annoying to get killed by that. Let me ask this question. As someone who's played Gears, what made you decide, I'm going to go after Reach? What was your decision to jump into Reach?
I would say the main decision was after playing with MBK, who's our Halo manager, actually. After playing with him, I really kind of fell in love with watching it, and being on his team, it's just like I have a lot more fun than when I was playing Gears. I also see a lot more room for growth and improvement because it's a lot more team-based of a game than Gears 1 was when I was good at it. But Halo Reach just has so much potential and growth, and that's just what the game I want to play.
Well, I wish you best of luck this season. I'm glad to hear about that. And, I always make the assumption that everybody knows who you are, and you've been doing a really good job in the forums of saying, ask me questions. But just in case, before I let you go, give everyone a quick overview of how old you are and, who is Ryan, who is VV Perilous?
Well, I'm 21, going on 22 this April. Getting older, not really. I feel like an old man already.
No. Not at all.
I know. But I don't know. I've always loved gaming ever since playing my first game with my brother in Super Nintendo. I've always looked at gaming as more in the competitive sense because I was always a big sports person. I just really wanted to make sure I did the best I could at all times. The only thing I have going on right now is studying food science at NC State and playing Halo Reach. Besides hanging out with my friends, going to movies, partying. and doing
The usual college stuff.
absolutely.
All right. Well, speaking of college and moving away from Major League Gaming and going into things that used to be in Major League Gaming, we have Mark here, Chibo Senpai, who is our Brawl manager. Even though Major League Gaming has dropped Brawl, we have decided to keep a few of the good ones, so to speak. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for the introduction.
No problem at all. So I think the big story is Pound 5, and we have a really good applicant. And why don't you give any update on the Brawl division, what's going on?
All right, here's what's going on. This past weekend on January 8th, there is a big tournament in Ohio called Schools in Session 4. We had a couple of our VVV members attend there. One of our competitive members, DJ Iska Scribble, placed in top 13, which is very good. After that, we will have a tournament called KTAR 4 this Saturday. I will be in attendance along with Cheese, our new applicant, and I believe that's it in terms of VVV. However, it's going to be a very big tournament. The expected attendance is definitely over 100, potentially over 128. We have players coming in from Texas, California, maybe some other states. It's going to be a great time. However, as you said, the really big event on the horizon is Pound 5. It's going to be a huge tournament in Washington, D.C., so right there in the middle of all the action. It's a great place to have a tournament. People can fly there easily, lots of stuff to do around the area, such as the District nightclub that Jolly owns. And pretty much we're going to be having players from all over the world. In fact, it's going to be kind of a similar thing to an Apex event. Pound 5 is going to be hosted by a TO named Plank, who has a great line of success with his tournaments. Everybody's looking forward to it. Hundreds and hundreds of players. This is pretty much going to be like the first MLG-sized event for Brawl of this year so far.
Awesome. Now, Anthony, VV Relent, aren't you going to be going to Pound 5?
Yes, I will.
It's in your backyard. This will be your first Brawl event, won't it?
Yes, it will. Well, I mean, there is MLGDC, too.
That's true. You were at MLGDC. I forgot about that. But this will be your first, MLGDC to me is like Brawl in public, but to me, Pound 5 is like Brawlers where they live in their caves. So this will be your first, on an all-Brawl event, right?
Yeah, and I really can't wait to meet the Brawl division and root them on.
There were some really good people. Mark, since Anthony's first time, what should an outsider know when they come to a Brawl event?
First thing to really make sure of is to, just don't be scared. Just jump right in there. When tournament play isn't going on, there's no matches. People are going to be playing at TVs, just playing friendly matches, getting practice before events, testing out their characters, getting ready for the event. Just jump right in there. Ask when a loser sits out, then you get in next on TV. Play teams with people, meet friends, talk to people. Just hang out with other Smashers, maybe get some contact information from people in your area so you can practice later on for other events. And really, Pound 5 is a great event to start off with your first real Brawl tournament. Actually, one of my first tournaments I attended in 2007 for Melee was Pound 3, so I can really relate to that. I think Pound 3 was maybe my second or third tournament, so really in the same situation as you or Relent, and I can tell you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, I am definitely money matching Cheese.
Who wouldn't want to?
Oh, dear Cheese. So this is the first event after the big Mewtwo King fallout, and VVV sort of dropped a lot of the players involved in the sort of price sharing, and you could argue price fixing when it came to MGC, but without rehashing old news, how do you feel the Brawl community has treated you as a member of VVV Gaming?
Well, after the entire thing with MGC, I'd say the two events were really separate. In terms of what happened at MLGDC, that was more just Mewtwo King and ADHD and how the community responded to that. VVV wasn't really mixed up in all of that. Everything that came, with the community talking about VVV more was a result of what happened at the Midnight Gaming Championship event. Since really, out of the 8 players there, or technically 7, 6 of them were VVV members. So that's where really people were focusing on. I'd say about half the community really sided with us. Half of them were kind of on the fence about it, maybe not too sure about it. Sure, we picked up some haters along the way, but you know what? There's people that understood where we were coming from, why the players that were dropped were dropped. Anybody who is smart and mature about the situation, I'm sure they'll understand what's going on. But you know what? We just got to put the past behind us, got to keep getting new members, and just got to push on and keep doing good at tournaments.
And that's what I like about you, Mark. You love Brawl, you don't get caught up in drama, and you always focus on being positive. I want to wish you all good luck at the next event, and we're going to have you back on the show to talk about how we did, okay?
Sure thing. I look forward to it.
And I also look forward to being an opportunity to interview, and hopefully the applicant will actually be in VV Gaming before the next event, and that is Logic, correct?
That is correct. Logic is a player from Maryland. Started off with Brawl. He played a little bit of Melee towards the end of it, but he didn't really get into the tournament scene. However, when it comes to Brawl, he's been a real threat recently. He topped top 16 in the pro bracket at MLG Dallas. He consistently gets first place, top 3 in his region. He gets top 3 in regional events. Always does great in teams. He's a great player, has a great attitude about the game. He's just a joy to be around.
Well, I look forward to meet him this week, and hopefully all will go well, and he'll be representing VVV at the next event. All right. Again, Mark, I want to thank you. And now we're going to move to our PC side of the house. I want to start with old favorite. Not because he's old, but because he's a favorite. VV Forsaken. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Well, Chris, you've been with us a long time, and I think a lot of people know the name Forsaken. They may not know a lot about you, but I can remember you coming to Chicago, trying out for the second season of WCG Ultimate Gamer, and obviously playing Counter-Strike Source the whole time. Tell everyone a little bit about you, and don't forget to mention your most beautiful wife.
Yeah, I've been with VVV Gaming for over a year now. It's a little hard to believe. Time just flies by. I joined back in August of last year, and we were picked up as the Counter-Strike Source team. Things have changed a little bit since then, but we're actually back to the same roster we started at. I've just fell in love with this community, and I can't seem to leave.
Well, we're really glad to have you. So tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do.
I'm 24. I just graduated from Purdue University with a degree in computer engineering. On the job search right now, going to stay local. My wife is a high school math teacher, and she's working in our college town at Purdue.
Any of our audience out there who are high school students, you should ask Chris for pictures of his wife, and you should say that should not be allowed. I think it's not legal.
Probably not. I'll just send you pictures of math homework in return.
That's all they get is the math homework. Stay in school, kid. You're not good. Okay, so tell everybody about the roster right now, and season just completed, and let me know what's going on.
Yep. Well, ESEA, which is the main league for Counter-Strike Source, just finished up, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, because they're actually getting ready to start the next season. We've made a couple of roster changes during that time. We were going with Ed NVS Nieves. He's moved back to a backup position. He originally was brought on as a backup and filled in for us when we needed him and did an excellent job in playoffs. We ended up getting third in ESEA Open last season. So we got bumped up to main. We are back to our original roster with Talento and Jules. We picked up both of them because of moving Ed back to a backup, and our other fifth is financially unable to land right now, so we have our eyes set on ETS, which is a land in Canada, Montreal, coming in March, so we're preparing for that.
Well, we're going to talk about ESA a little bit later. Give us an overview, because I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with Counter-Strike, they know about 1.6, they know about Source. A lot of our console players may not be familiar with where the scene is right now. How would you describe what is going on sort of in the Source world and where it fits in the competitive gaming scene overall?
Well, I think Source and 1.6 are going to die hard, both of them. I can't really speak too much for the 1.6 scene. I know Counter-Strike Source was in a big boom around the CGS era. When that went under, we had a really big kind of dip where there's a pretty big stigma around saying the game is dead. But lately there's been quite a bit of fire kind of brought back to the game. Part of me hopes that both games die so that the 1.6 players and the Source players can be reunited under one game. I don't want to mention what game that might be, hint, hint, pro mod. But I'd like to see both 1.6 and Source reunited. Really, Counter-Strike as a whole is dominating the PC first-person shooter genre. If it's not for 1.6 or Source, it's going to be something else eventually, and I'd like to see that.
And I wonder, what is it about the PC side that when you look at overall use of first-person shooter games, the console dominates that scene numerically. I mean, overwhelmingly, like it's not even close. Just look at Black Ops sales as an example, or even compare Black Ops usage to, Source and 1.6 combined. Whereas I wonder if, as you said, that they may be on their way out. Will there ever be another big first-person shooter on the PC, or, is that never coming back? I don't know, but I mean, what would you guess as a person who knows a thing or two about computers?
I think there will always be a first-person shooter that is competitive. In situations like we have now, where there hasn't really been a new type of Counter-Strike in 6 years since Counter-Strike Source came out. Obviously, both 1.6 and Source are dated software, but you actually see communities kind of coming up out of the woodwork to build the new ones, which is like ProMod. Unfortunately, the development of ProMod has taken a lot longer than the community thought it would. But I think there's always going to be that niche.
Well, let me throw this out there. I'm thinking about Valve right now, and I'm thinking about what they have done, and we have unrelated, but Portal 2, they have taken on Dota 2. Would it be possible that they ever would re-examine the Counter-Strike title and maybe do something in the future, or has Valve closed the door on that title forever? Do we know?
Well, the door's not actually closed. They have actually come back to Counter-Strike Source, and over the past several months have been updating it, which is the first updates we've seen in a long time. They've made some rather drastic changes to the gameplay, and a lot of it was for the better, and they were very good at listening to the competitive community.
It'll be interesting to see what happens down the road. It would be nice to get a visual update. I mean, I know some people say, a competitive game, nobody cares about the visuals, but I think audiences do care about the visuals.
Absolutely.
I really do. I mean, I don't like to watch 1.6 because it looks horrible in my...
CGS would have picked up 1.6 if it weren't for the visuals. I mean, 1.6 is more popular now competitively. The numbers on Steam indicate that 1.6 and Source are very, very close all the time.
Yeah, that is a fairly divided community when you look at just the total number of people playing. And I would agree with you. I mean, obviously, IEM supports 1.6. WCG supports 1.6. So, yeah, I mean, clearly 1.6 is the competitive title of choice globally. But it really would be nice to get some kind of a shooter that looked modern. It's always amazed me why diehard fans of a game, instead of just arguing it, really, and let me pause before I say something that, I don't want to give credit where credit's due. I mean, ProMod was a serious effort to try to basically get a version of Counter-Strike that would be competitive friendly, that everyone could play, to stop this divide in the competitive community. But, unfortunately, I think the end of the story is too little too late. Would you agree, or do you think there could still be some hope?
There is still some hope. They've got a new deadline, and I don't remember exactly what that is. I believe it's the end of the month, but they've made a hard deadline for updating ProMod. So there's definitely a lot of good things about ProMod. Their release schedule isn't one of them, but there's the fact that ProMod controls 100% of their source code, allows them to make any changes that they can think of to make it more spectator friendly, to make it more competitive. You can imagine viewing a match streaming on your TV and being able to look at multiple viewpoints, picture-in-picture, superimpose the score. A lot of these things you can't do in Counter-Strike or 1.6, but if we had a game that was basically open source and something that an organization was doing it for the competitive community, then you can start targeting these things like, how do we make this more appealing to the masses, and how do we make it more competitive?
Well, we're still going to keep a close eye on that, and maybe near the end of the month, we can call you back in for an update. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for your time. Now, we're going to turn to a guest who seems to be a frequent regular here, Tristan. Tristan, welcome.
Thanks for having me once again.
So I love the fact that so much happens in StarCraft 2 that it is like every organization site, anybody that can get a piece of the StarCraft 2 action wants to get a piece of it. But before we talk about the update, I want to congratulate you. I just noticed the top 200 rankings came out, and you made number 13.
Yep, thanks a lot. Yeah, took a lot of hard work, but it's not what I want to be yet because I definitely want to be number 1. But because we had Clan Wars recently, I hadn't had the chance to really get up there.
Your teammate, our very own VV Murder, came in 15. Does it feel good to edge him out like that?
Of course, yeah. We're like practicing nonstop, and we pretty much have this kind of rivalry between us. But it's a friendly rivalry, So we just keep pushing each other, and it really feels good to edge him out, as you said.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on in StarCraft 2, what's going on in the last week. I know Angry just had a second place finish, so you can tell us a little bit about that. And then also tell us about what's coming up.
Oh, yeah, sure. As you said, Angry did finish second in the Go for SC2 finals, where he played VT Desro. He showed a strong showing, but unfortunately he couldn't bring it all home. But the biggest news is definitely the Gosu coaching qualifiers that happened recently, where we went up against the top teams internationally, so like Europeans, Americans, and we were trying to vie for the final spot in the tournament. So in the tournament right now, they have like Root, EG, Liquid, Digitas, Fnatic, name the teams, they have them. And so this past Saturday, we were trying to get the final spot, and we made it all the way to the finals, beating Complexity, Lazarus Gaming, and then we faced Team Empire, which is a European team, and they have a sick lineup. I mean, some of the best players in the world, the best Protoss, arguably the best Terran in Europe, and we lost that 3-1. It was extremely close. Great performance by Angry, actually. He got the first win for us, but Murder, myself, and Time could not pull out another win to send it into finals or into an ace match. So that was kind of sad, but it was a really, really good showing in that respect.
So in this qualifier, how many teams were there?
There were 8 teams, and they were the best of Europe and the best of America.
And where did we place at the end of that?
Oh, we placed second. So, I mean, if you were to, give placings for, internationally, we would be 9th. But in America, we were, number 2 or 3.
And that would be right behind EG, who got the invite.
Actually, it'd probably be behind Root. I think they're better than EG right now. Although EG did just pick up the Muslim Warcraft 3 player, or who's now a StarCraft 2 player. So they could be number 1 now. But it's really close between us 3.
Awesome. Well, I want to congratulate you guys. I thought that was an awesome performance. When it came down to the finals, it was one of those moments where, oh my God, we might just pull this out. And, to be honest, we have such a chip on our shoulder because I think we're a council organization and that's our roots. And as we've come into the PC world, the other organizations, very elitist, very not welcoming has been my experience, which is unfortunate. But you know what? I mean, we let our players do the talking for us in many ways. And I think you guys have nothing at all to be ashamed of because I thought it was very interesting that you were omitted from the poll when they first did a poll to see who was going to be in. And it was the French team, I think, that somehow spammed their way to 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, Team AAA. Yeah, that was them.
And how do they do in the tournament?
They lost in the first round to the team that we lost to. They lost with the same score.
Okay. And was it a single elimination?
Yep, single elimination.
How did it feel to beat Complexity?
Oh, man. Really freaking good, especially considering I was the ace for the match. So we were tied 2-2. And then the final match would be a best of 3, which I won 2-1. So I was so happy I got an event, and I was like, yeah, and all that stuff. So really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's my understanding that Complexity has no intention of letting this rest. They've really wanted to try to get you banned from events, didn't they?
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up their name or anything, but that is them. So even more excitement for beating them up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that if they can't get you, they certainly don't want to play against you. So that's okay. Well, congratulations on being 13th. Congratulations on you guys pulling off second place. considering that you weren't even originally on the list of teams that was quote unquote on the list to vote. But yeah, so what's next? What is the next big thing for our StarCraft division?
Well, the next big thing, it just stems off the Gosu coaching qualifier because that just says, you know what, we're almost to international caliber. We just need to keep practicing. We're just right there. So we need to start with what's here at home first, which is like the SCL, the ESEA, whatever leagues it is. Win those leagues and then push for the international scene beyond our North American qualifiers or leagues and whatever.
Well, we're really proud of you guys. And of course, Major League Gaming right here at home as well. Let's go back, because I think a lot of people hear a lot of things about StarCraft. Let's go back to Gosu coaching, the finals. Let's talk about your match, the one you lost. Talk a little bit about what happened.
Oh, yeah, that was a great game, so close. But I opened up with a 14-13 build for anybody who understands. That means like a 14 extractor, 13 pool, which means I'll have a less economic advantage against the opponent, which he was Terran. And so I opened up, expanded, got my economy going, and he went for a Hellion expand, which is the perfect counter to the build I did. It was just really tough because the Hellions kept me contained. I couldn't take my third. And by the time I took my third, he was taking his third as well. And for those of you that know the Zerg race, you need to take your third and fourth base as the Terran takes their third, or else you're going to lose. So at that point in the game, he controlled the middle of the map, and we were just vying for positioning to see who would get the advantage for when the armies clashed. And so we eventually fought in the middle of the map. He had the positioning just barely, but I edged out in the battle because of a little bit of a micro advantage that I had through banelings. And then as the game progressed, it was just because we were on 3 base against 3 base, I could never really pull ahead. No matter what I did, he was going to win the game in the end unless I hurt his economy. One more battle happened. I caught him out of position. I was about to win the game. I was like going into his SCV line. I had his economy starting to beat it down. But because of the production of Terran and how Terran, their units are much more cost-effective than Zerg units, he was able to push me back and win the game because I did not damage his economy early enough. It really sucked because I was the final person for our lineup, and I needed to win that game to send it into the ace match. And the game was 30 minutes long. It was incredible. Really, really good game, but couldn't pull it through for the team.
And is that replay going to be available on the VV Gaming website?
Oh, of course. We're going to get all the replays for every game, and we're going to put them up in the StarCraft 2 section or on the front page, wherever you'd like it.
Well, so everybody knows, this is one of those classic matches that is definitely worth watching. If you are someone who wants to learn about StarCraft, we do a lot to introduce you, but this is one of those that is Titan has just told us about, a classic match in many ways, and one in which when you look at what happened and as you listen to Titan talk about the match, it's the kind of analysis after the game that I like to hear, because there were no excuses made. As you could hear, Titan told you what happened, what he needed to do, and what he could have done better. And knowing that, what would you do next time differently that you'll look for, that you think you would be able to edge it out?
Okay, after analyzing the replay a bunch of times, I found many different things that I could have done differently. The first would have been to scout out his base and find out the timing of his expansion, because that tells me how many units he can make and tells me that I can take a third or fourth base right then and there. And unfortunately, I did not scout well enough. There were actually some paths I could have taken to get around his Hellions and to get the information needed, because the game is all about information. And so having the information tells you the correct response. So that would be the first thing. And the other thing would be to not allow myself to play in a defensive position as Zerg. I need to be the aggressor. So to find a way to push him over and put the momentum in my favor instead of his favor, put him on his heels. And the way to do that would have been to go roaches a little bit sooner, which I didn't for about 2 minutes too late. So that's pretty much the whole reason I lost. I kind of snowballed downhill from there.
Well, either way, I think you did a great showing, and either way, it's an invaluable experience for you, and it definitely sounds like you've learned a whole lot from this. So I just want to again say congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely learned a ton.
We're also joined tonight by the Italian stallion himself, Anthony Amenta. Anthony, how are you?
Hey, I'm just chilling, man. How you guys feeling?
I'm really good. Thank you for asking. So I wanted people, again, who didn't get a chance to know you, because you've been on the show before, and since then you've changed jobs, and now you're back in television. We, that is everybody here for our 50th show, we're thinking about how can we help Anthony create his own show for gaming. So we're going to brainstorm that here a little bit. Anthony, tell everybody what tools you have available to you and what you're thinking of doing.
Well, this is kind of unexpected, but thanks for throwing this on me, Jerry.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, I guess the last time I was on the podcast, I was working for Disney at a studio called Propaganda Games. I was on Pirates of the Caribbean, but as we all know, that title got canceled. So back out in the looks for work, and now I'm working for Bardell Entertainment for a show called Planet Sheen. It's a Nickelodeon show, and it's airing right now. Yeah, so Jerry, you were mentioning something about me doing my own little podcast, video blogs for VVV Gaming, and yeah, I just want to know exactly what you were thinking, because I'm sure everyone has ideas on what I can be doing. I'd love to do that.
Well, I mean, I think you definitely have enormous camera presence. Like, I remember when we were in MLGDC, you are just popular, you're out there, you talk to people. I don't know. I mean, I think you're the kind of image that is really good for gaming. Plus, you have great adventures. I mean, before I sort of say what to do, you're going to be going to Italy this summer to visit family, aren't you?
Yeah. I think start of June, if all goes as planned. I already got my Euros. I'm going to hopefully book my plane ticket in the next week or two. I'm just kind of arranging stuff with my cousin because I want to go out there for his birthday, which is on June 12th, so it'll be crazy. It'll be a good time. And yeah, I'll be gone for about a month, just seeing my family. It's been my first time going, and I'm just stoked. Like, this is what I've been waiting for years.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to the panel here, and let's start asking some questions. What do you guys think? If you wanted to see one show from someone in Vancouver, in British Columbia, in Canada, anybody got any ideas? Anything you'd like to see? Like The Great Adventures of VV Kraft Dinner? Anyone?
I could honestly say that if you have a friend or someone who could possibly go on that vacation with you, that'd be cool. Because, like, getting your everyday life filmed and recorded and, like, what you do, go to work, and, you know, just, like, an everyday life kind of show thing. And then to show, like, I am a VVV gamer, this is what I do every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that you could also do really well is, I mean, I think you're a very level-headed person. And that's rare. Like, normally when people get in front of a camera, you always get, like, the extreme people. And you're kind of level-headed, probably have a lot of good advice. When I see you interact in our shop box with young people, you generally have some good advice out there. Plus, you have your own misadventures. So, I don't know, like, VVV's big brother, like, giving advice to your younger brothers and showing them, you know, what the world has to offer, so to speak, or how you engage with the world, you know, and then bringing gaming along with you, sort of the gamer's perspective on everyday life.
Yeah, totally. I know what you're saying. Excuse my voice right now. I'm still getting over a cold, so I kind of sound like I'm Barry White or something. The filming part is what I have to kind of grasp, I guess, if I was to do this. I'm definitely going to be going to Italy alone, though, but I will have my family there and my cousins around me. And I've met girls in Vegas who live in Florence, and I'll be going to see them. So I'll get them to film some of the adventures. I got some ideas definitely around this topic, but I guess just executing it in the correct way and just making it enjoyable to watch, I guess, is the main thing, right? So any ideas, just throw them at me, and I'm more than happy to, like, try it. And I need to first get a camera. That's one thing I'm looking into right now. You know, I've been talking to Jason. We'll see what happens.
You could make it a game show. You could play Where the Hell Did I Just Wake Up?
Well, I don't know about that one. I got to keep some of this off record, right? But yeah.
I think that was
right.
good, though.
You don't want evidence. I understand.
Also, you know, now that I think about it, Anthony, we also did a segment earlier this year on Battle Empire, and you actually tried out Battle Empire, and I want you to give us a sort of walkthrough on your experience sort of from the beginning, how you started, what went on, what you think of it, because obviously, I mean, they're running Counter-Strike, so give everybody a brief overview of what happened, what you went through, and where you are right now as far as your experience with Battle Empire.
Yeah, so I first heard about Battle Empire when, I was listening to the podcast. I'm not sure his name anymore, but he had him on the show. I decided to check it out. I don't think anyone was, so I thought I'd just take the initiative and just go and try it. And I like Counter-Strike. It's one of my favorite games. It was. It's kind of getting old now, but definitely, I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. I sent them an email on the beta testing site. You had to single application. On the website, it said, they review every application and not just everyone's invited. So I wrote an email telling them who I was with VVV Gaming. I told them straight up, I'm not a very good Counter-Strike player. I'm average. I used to be okay, but I'm just kind of seeing how this would turn out for someone of the average level to below average level playing the game. And they accepted me. They brought me in. I hopped on their event. Pretty cool group of people. Everyone was really friendly, and within like the first day, everyone was like, "Oh shit, Kraft's here already," and just everyone got to know me right away. Playing the match is basically load a client, just loads up Steam, loads up Counter-Strike, and automatically puts you into a server. Once you're in there, there's commands, ready, just type ready. It's basically like a pug. You're randomly generated into a team. There's no stat matchups yet. I don't know if it was in the beta, but you just had random teammates and you played. Sometimes if the teams were uneven, it was like 5v4, 3v5, and it's kind of like, really? Or the top 3 people would be on the same team and the other team would just get dominated. So I think once the actual launch is out, if there's a lot of players, it'll be a little more balanced, but it was beta and it was just testing, so I didn't mind too much. But the overall experience was pretty fun. I enjoyed it, but I didn't make much money. Some of the guys, I assume they made like $90 US just after like a week or two of playing Battle Empires with only like 100 users maybe on it registered. So they made some good money. I only made $1.75, I think. I actually just got the email confirming the money. I just have to accept it, but it's $1.75. I'm just glad they actually sent me an email. It's cool, they actually pay out and it seems legit, but it's just not my thing in the end, really, because I'm not going to make much money from this.
No, probably not going to be your next job by any means.
But, from seeing I have the players there, I was average compared to some of them. So if I actually gave it some, effort, I'm sure I could probably make more than I put into it. So if it's a $5 a month fee, I'm sure I can probably make $20 in the month, but with a lot of playing. So if you really like playing Counter-Strike or whatever games they offer, you may as well play it through their system. And maybe, I'm thinking like it's pretty decent. You could make some money if you're really good. Like some of the good players that were on there made $90, but I'm not sure how they're going to balance the algorithm once the actual launch is out. It might be completely different. It might be lower. I really don't know what else to say after the beta.
All right, well, we'll keep a close eye on that, and we'll see what happens, because the proof is going to be down the line as they get this out of beta and get it into launch, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that we've got all the VV news out of the way, there's a topic that I would like to bring up. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this yet, but the ESEA has just created this new invite division policy. And what this is they have announced this new initiative where anybody representing an organization has to pay a $100 deposit per player on the team at the start of each season. That money would go towards travel expenses for the team if they qualify for LAN playoffs, and will be fully refunded for teams that are eliminated from playoff contention. I'm really curious. I know I have my opinion on this. Guys, what are your thoughts?
Well, this is really interesting move by ESEA. I'm not really sure what to think about it. On the surface, it looks like they are trying to add validity to the organizations that are out there. You can imagine in some cases there are sponsorships that offer, a team this or a team that, and a lot of it can sound too good to be true until it actually happens and then they don't follow through. So part of that I can see could be beneficial, but in my experience, you don't really have those sponsorships at the invite level. So I'm not really sure how this is going to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you on that one. Yeah, they'll be legitimizing the organizations that don't really put forth the effort of providing the teams with what they said. But like you said, you don't really see this in the invite section of this league. I don't know.
I find it interesting that this is only for organizations. If you look at the invite right now for Counter-Strike Source, there's a lot of teams that aren't sponsored. They have no obligation to pay. Only organizations that are backing teams have to pay.
Exactly. And then is this something so they're trying to make it so the teams that qualify for LAN playoffs actually show up at the LAN playoffs? Because some of the teams that will qualify who are not sponsored by an organization are still not going to have the funds to be able to go to the LAN event. And by adding this for organizations only for a $100 deposit, honestly, they should make it for everyone. That way they can ensure all the teams that are going to compete have a chance to go to the LAN playoffs.
Does anybody know how big this league is? Like, what are their payouts or anything, or how big they have lands and stuff to make this such a big issue?
Last season of Counter-Strike Source, the payout was around $5,000 for the first place team. 1.6 got $7,000. So the overall prize pool this last season was close to $60,000.
So what is that per player?
If you were to finish first place in 1.6, it would be a little over $1,000.
Okay.
10% seems like an awful lot of money to be fronting for this deposit. I mean, when we see other leagues here, I mean, they're paying out much more than $1,000 per person. When that ratio just seems really out of the ordinary here. I mean, I haven't heard anything like this from any other company before.
I don't know. The more I think about this, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. There's so many questions that are unanswered. What qualifies as an organization? If Bob's Gaming Shack decides to sponsor a team, are they responsible for putting what would qualify them as, reaching this organization level? That needs to be clarified. What happens if a team leaves an organization while they're in the midst of a season? Or what happens if the organization decides they don't want to back the team anymore? Does that money just go away? Is ESEA trying to police the entire esports world? I don't know. There's just a lot of questions left up in the air that leave me feeling a bit uneasy about this.
Using VVV as an example, what if we had like a community or a competitive team as part of this organization in the online league? Do they have to pay the $100 deposit compared to a sponsor team? Just because somebody wants to represent another organization doesn't mean that they should have to deposit the money. I mean, there's too much ambiguity there.
Another thing that I'm curious about is travel arrangements. So if ESEA is going to hang on to this money until LAN playoffs, are they going to then give it back to the organization right before LAN playoffs? Or because these players are going to want to start making travel arrangements, is ESEA going to handle those travel arrangements, give them their flights and hotel?
Yeah, when I read that, I had to take a step back for a second and say, well, let's see. Clearly, the problem that you say you're addressing is the one of sponsors who make promises to organizations and then don't keep them. And I thought, I could see where that's good. And then I started thinking about all the possible situations that could arise. And then I thought about who this was. Meaning, I'm thinking we're talking about Craig Levine and ESEA. And then I thought, let me see. If I had one source team that I picked up, or we'll just say one team, that's $500. And then I decided to have a couple invite StarCraft players, that's another $200. That would be $700 to give to ESEA. And then I thought, what other situation in the real world would this be how I approach the problem? Because, obviously you guys pointed out Major League Gaming never asks anything like that. And then I looked and I started thinking about my experiences with ESEA. So why don't we start with the little history lesson, backing up. I think I met Craig Levine way back in, I think it was 2008. It was at WCG in New York at the Samsung Center. He seemed like an okay guy. Mind you, I didn't have much dealing with him outside of that. But the next time I heard from him was when I got forwarded an email that Tristan got from them because Complexity whined that 2-day contract that Tristan had with him, if he doesn't play for Complexity, he shouldn't be allowed to play. And I thought, well, that's really stupid. We had an attorney on the show. All of you as listeners listened to the attorney. And there were so many problems with that contract that the attorney basically said, and this is a qualified professional attorney focuses on contract law. Our attorney looked at it. We had an attorney on the show. 2 attorneys in 2 different states looked at the same contract and said, this contract is poorly written, it's unenforceable, and there was no meeting of the minds. It's obvious from reading it that Tristan, for better or worse, really didn't read the contract nor understand it, because the clause in the contract that talked about him having MLG Dallas as a trial event, and then it would put the contract into effect the 1st of January, just that one clause alone made the contract invalid. But that is not what bothers me. What bothers me is the response that I got from Craig Levine. That's what bothered me. It was when he kind of said we want to do the fair thing, and I believe he does. Let me say that I believe their intention in this rule, in this $100 deposit, is fair, except for one thing. That is that when we presented him with the evidence, he did a fatal contradiction in an email. And on top of that contradiction, the attitude he expressed to me as a professional business person, there are many laws that involve what we do, from our terms of service to accepting credit cards to our compliance with Visa and MasterCard to, our SSL certificates. There's so many things that go on in a given day that make sure that you're in compliance with, that I was almost stunned. So let me read it to you. He said, and I quote, "To be perfectly honest, I'm not looking to get into a legal debate about the ultimate legality of any esports agreements. To me, this matter is important," and he's referring to the Complexity Tristan issue. And he then goes on to talk about how most esports agreement would rarely be worth the time, money, and resources needed for a full legal case. So on one hand, Craig Levine says, I'm not interested in what the law says. And he would later go on in this email to talk about him realizing the problem with the contract. But then he goes on to say this: unfortunately, ignorance or naivety is not a reasonable defense. So Tristan claiming that he doesn't know what he signed isn't a legitimate defense. Let's pause right there. You don't get to decide what's a fucking legitimate defense. Especially somebody who's not interested in a legal argument should not turn around and then decide what you believe to be a legal item. Tristan should have taken the time to read through and understand the agreement, and if necessary, seek outside counsel before signing the agreement. Once that agreement got signed, the player cannot just simply rescind the signature. Well, actually, Craig, yes, they can. That's why we had a lawyer on the show. That's why you and I don't debate this. That's what we have the law for, so that we take a bit of humility and we take that counsel and we listen. Then he says it is a binding agreement. Actually, Craig, once again, no. The lawyer on this show told you it wasn't a binding agreement. And then he says, for any contract to be valid, there has to be consideration given for both parties. And to me, the contract clearly defines the compensation given to Tristan by Complexity. But there are problems. And he didn't want to address them. So we haven't heard back from him after we gave our sort of like, hey, Craig, here's the other problem. But at the end, he says, are you receptive to working out a player transfer fee? Have you and Complexity discussed any other proposed resolutions that you would open to be exploring? Funny he mentions that, because, see, Complexity said to us, well, Jerry, the typical fee after one event is $2,500. But since we want to get rid of this, we'll do it for $1,000. Oh, like I'm going to give fucking Complexity $1,000 for a 2-day contract? Like, that's esports? This is what the theme is? This is professional gaming? Ha ha, Tristan, we got you. That's it? That's the attitude people want to have? No. I don't think that's right at all. And now, the very person who tells me that he's not interested in legal arguments, yet wants to play sideline lawyer, wants me to give him a $100 deposit per player. I don't know about you, but isn't there some sort of like, are you fucking kidding me? Now, it doesn't work that way in any other profession I can think of. I can think of doing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 contracts where I did work first. Sometimes they paid half up front, half later. I've done a lot of different types of gigs in my day as a consultant. But the idea that I would ask somebody to give me money that I would hold for them until a third party reaches a moment where they need that money to attend an event. Do you start to see how fucking stupid that is? Like, what other space would that happen in? So, look, I really get Craig Levine is probably a nice guy. And I really get maybe he was on his way to CES and the email wasn't well thought out. And I agree that, you know what, there are a lot of bullshit organizations in the world. Blight Gaming, there's a bunch of them. But this is probably not the way to solve it. Unlike Complexity and EG, like, hey, all you got to do is like wear our tag and play games and win, and that's good. That's not what we're about. That's not our business model. We have social media requirements. We have blog requirements. We have traffic requirements. What happens when they don't meet those requirements? I'm going to have Craig Levine arbitrate whether or not they've done something sufficient. He clearly couldn't take the time out to listen to a podcast show. And at the same time admits he's clearly not in the mood for a legal argument, but then has the nerve to ask me to give him $100 per player. Okay, look, over the past couple of weeks, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've had this growing like, are you fucking kidding me? It goes all the way back to that stupid article when Loaded was around talking about how they were up and coming and now they don't even exist, right? How badass they are, how they're number 3 in the scene. Now they're gone. Poof, gone away. And I've had this little like, oh, you know, Counter-Strike players get $1,000 a month. Yeah, it's $12,000 a year. Big fucking deal. I get it. But the problem is that there's some kind of ego about money. And we're not there yet. There's not a sustainable business model. I see this as little tiny fiefdoms and everybody clinging to their own little piece of the pie, like a last dying little gasp. But no, I would not give Craig Levine $100 per player because it's not worth $100 per player for him to put the 3 Vs on the site. That's not how we'd make our fucking money anyway. I might as well save the $100 per player, wait to see if my team does well enough, like, wow, they're number 8. Well, that would mean that they're going to fly their 8th place ass out to his fucking event and probably get 8th place again. And I should pay for that? No, what I will do instead is say, fuck you to your little idea. One, for not even coming out and asking us. Sorry, we're not an affiliated partner. I guess we're not big time like EG and Complexity. But let me make something clear. It would then be in my vested interest to say, fine, I'll just wait. Because it's not like everybody else is going to pay for my players. And then if they do well enough, then at the end I'll pay for them then. And then I'll go to LAN event, put on a VVV shirt to go in. Or what, are you going to say they can't? Well, that would get interesting. That would be even more fun. But that's all speculation. Matter of fact, some of this is speculation. But I can say this. If you're going to make that kind of requirement where you want to have people post or pay a $100 deposit per player, I want to know where that deposit is going to be kept. Will it be an escrow account? I want to know the bank in which it's going to be kept. I want to know who's going to be responsible for executing that escrow. There are a lot of, here's the word again, legal questions that have to be answered. And whoever made that post, well, I know who made the post, but you should have probably advised them with a little bit more information. Because at the end of the day, when I see Complexity and I see EG supporting it, I really have to ask the question, did they not think through and ask these questions? Do you have all of these answers all laid out, but only Complexity and EG get them? But no matter how I look at this, I can't imagine Major League Gaming coming to me and saying, Jerry, I'm sorry, you can't have anybody have VVV in their name unless you give me money first. Well, then I would quietly close my doors and I wouldn't play this game because it's not worth it. I'm not a child. I'm not somebody that needs babysitting. I've been doing this for coming on 4 years now, and the promises we make have been the promises we've kept, with players on 4 continents and tens of $1,000s dished out to players, and a vibrant community and a great relationship with our partners. So if you did consult with EG and Complexity, then EG and Complexity should have asked all these questions. And if they did, then you should have had a post with all of these questions and answers laid out. Because as it sits right now, a person who can't be bothered with legal arguments is not somebody I would give $100 fucking to. If you want to fix this problem, here is my advice to you. Get your head out of the old guard collective ass and take a big step back and get people to understand what you want to accomplish. Right? I can play a guessing game. It's pretty obvious. Oh, we want the top 8 teams to come to our events, but they get invited to our events and then their sponsors bail on them and they can't travel. I get that. And you want to solve that problem because you want your events to be successful. Well, I can tell you how Major League Gaming solved that problem, but you probably already know that, and you probably have neither the resources nor access to the resources to do what Major League Gaming did. But I will say this. Anybody who tells me that they're not interested in legal arguments should not be the same person who then asks me in business dealings to give them a $100 deposit per player. It's not going to work that way. And if, because of my comment now, if ESCA decides VVV is banned from the competitions, that again, I welcome it. You're a private company, bring it the fuck on. But if criticism, critique, and saying don't put requirements out there like this, because again, when I see Complexity and EG wave their banner about how we're pro gaming, and you put their name on a document like this, and you don't answer all the questions, and you tell me that you're not interested in legal arguments, if that's pro gaming, then we obviously have very different definitions of the word professional. Let's talk about Sundance's Twitter. I want to give a shout out to Mason. They did a blog on this, and I thought it was correct. I agree with the assumption. Not East Coast, not West Coast. Sometime before that, there was one Twitter that they missed where Sundance mentions that GameStop headquarters is in Dallas. My prediction, and again, want to shout out to Mason. They said it first, and I agree with their prediction. It's going to be in Dallas. I think not East Coast, not West Coast, and the fact that he had mentioned something about GameStop headquarters being in Dallas, and MLG having been to Dallas before, I'm guessing Dallas. I noticed that it's going to be March or April. Looking at the calendar, I'm guessing April 1st, that Friday. So my vote, my guess I should say, is that the first MLG event is going to be in Dallas, and it's going to be April 1st. I think April 8th might be a possibility, or maybe that weekend and last weekend in March. But they're going to end it in January. February is a short month. I don't know. I think that April 1st, or maybe there's something wrong with April Fool's Day. I don't know. But I think April 1st seems like it would make the most sense. And then from there, I don't know. I've got my eye on Providence. There's been a talk about Providence right now.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I don't know if Providence, I would prefer Providence to be the 4th event, because Providence is really awesome in the summertime. And if they do like April, May, but if they do April, June, then Providence wouldn't be bad. I figure the third one's probably going to be Raleigh. Then somewhere Columbus has got to fit in there. And then I have no idea where the finals will be. What if it was like PAX West or something in September? Wouldn't that be cool? Anthony, you're going to be going to PAX, aren't you?
Oh, of course. Last year, this year, I'm going to keep going. I want to go to PAX East as well, but depends on flights and time. But PAX West is amazing. That's all I got to say. It's amazing.
That's in September, isn't it?
Yeah, I think September, first weekend of September it should be. But it's not confirmed yet. But it's usually the first week of September.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Well, that's just me wishful thinking, because then I could kill two birds with one stone. I could take like a long vacation and play at PAX and be there for the MLG event, and that would be really, really cool. Wouldn't that be a surprise?
Hang out with me.
And hang out with you again? God. So yeah.
MLG DC.
Hell yeah. Well, listen, everyone. Once again, I want to thank you for being on the show. It's our 50th show. I thank all the guests we've had. I want to thank Major League Gaming CEO Sundance, Paul Brewer, who used to be at the World Cyber Games. We've had a lot of great guests, Lead and Gold developers, everybody who's been on our show. Thank you so much. I want to give a second shout out to Major League Gaming for posting the Losers Bracket podcast on their website, on Game Battles, on MLG Pro. You helped us set our online record. You broke our old record, which was when we opened applications. You broke that record by 15 people. The old record used to be 206 as the most people online at once. And on December 23rd of this year, because of the Sundance podcast, we broke that record with 221. So I really want to thank MLG for making that happen and for being supportive to us. And I want to thank my co-host, Jason. I want to thank Ryan, Forsaken, Relent, IceVayne, Titan, Kraft Dinner, and Chibo Senpai, all of you. Thank you very much for being on the show. And with that, Paradise, I will turn it over to you to bid everyone a fond farewell.
But of course, Jerry, huge thanks as always to the VV sponsors SteelSeries, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, GamerLogos.net, and Custom Ink. And, let's throw out another thank you this week. Throw a thank you out to the band Power Glove for supplying our intro and outro music. Thanks to the VV community for feedback, support, being around, listening to the show for now 50 episodes. It's amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Here's to the next 50. Be sure to stop by our podcast homepage. That'd be vvgaming.podbean.com. Also, you can subscribe to us on iTunes or Zoom Marketplace. Just check out VV Gaming. We'll come right up. You'll see our show's directional influence and the Losers Bracket. Email us at thelosersbracket@vv-gaming.com or follow us on Twitter. There we're simply known as Losers Bracket.